We have come together today to honor our mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother, Jeanne Turner, who passed away on March 23rd of this year at the age of 90. The final 7 years of Mom's life following a severe stroke in 2013 were extremely difficult, both for her and for the family members tasked with trying to provide care from 400 miles away. She was a very strong and independent-minded person, so adjusting to life in a nursing home was especially difficult. There were a lot of very trying situations that Lindy and I both had to deal with, but it's very important to remember the person Mom was before the stroke, a funny, active, loving woman who was always talking and always on the move. She viewed taking care of her home and her family as her mission in life, and she poured everything she had into that endeavor. Her neighbors in Thousand Oaks were amazed at how clean and neat she kept her home and yard, and teased her about vacuuming and mopping out the garage. Her energy level was astonishing for a woman in her later years, and she devoted much of that energy into caring for our father, who had developed several health issues prior to the stroke that confined him to the nursing home for the final 9.5 years of his life. Mom visited him at the nursing home every day. She put on a cheerful demeanor to keep his spirits up, took his laundry home, and even hand-fed him when he didn't feel like eating. She would wander the corridors of the nursing home while he slept and pop in to visit the other residents, or spend a few minutes chatting with the nurses. Lindy and I both believe that our mother's tireless attention and devotion dramatically improved both the quality and length of our father's life. About 20 years ago, Mom and Dad considered moving back to the Sacramento area. Lindy and I repeatedly urged them to move closer to us so that we would be nearby when they needed more care. Unfortunately, they felt overwhelmed by the prospect of selling their home and moving, so they stayed put. Following a severe stroke, Mom moved into the nursing home where Dad was in 2013. When Dad passed away in 2014, Mom became very depressed and lonely. We visited as often as possible and brought her pictures of the grandkids, as well as books, puzzles, and art supplies. But arthritis made the use of her hands increasingly painful. She spent most of her time watching the world pass by outside her window. She told me that one of the activities she missed the most was just being able to get in the car and drive. We both missed the evenings spent at her dining room table, teaching the grandkids to play Clue and Yahtzee. There was teasing, talking, and laughter, so much laughter. Those evenings spent at her house will always remain at the top of my list of favorite memories. Mom's memory had always been razor sharp. She was able to recall names, places, and events from 70 and 80 years ago and talk about them as if they had just happened yesterday. She always wanted to hear how everyone was doing, especially our kids and grandkids. About a year ago, we noticed that she stopped asking questions about family and began to struggle with matching names to the proper faces. The nursing staff told us that Mom was experiencing cognitive decline and was not interested in eating. She no longer recognized her family or even the people in the nursing home who took care of her on a daily basis. Several days after the nursing home went into full lockdown due to the coronavirus, she passed away quietly in her sleep. It is only now, on her 91st birthday, that we are able to come together and give her the memorial service that she deserves. In closing, I would like to read Mom's favorite poem, which defines the stick-to-your-guns attitude that she carried with her throughout her life. The poem is entitled Invictus by William Ernest Henley. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how strait the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul.
Mom was born July 22nd, 1929 in Modesto, California to Clarence C. Cato and Georgia Minerva Siemens Cato. She was the youngest of 4 children. Warren was her half-brother from her father's first marriage, then William, Bill, and then George. George died when he was 2. Mom was very shy as a child. In grade school, she would sit quietly in class and hope the teacher would forget that she was even there. She enjoyed roller skating and riding her bike around the block. She loved art and history and wanted to be a teacher. Mom met Dad when she was 14 and he had just turned 15 at a carnival. He was wearing a silly-looking Robin Hood hat that fell off during one of the carnival rides. Their first date was to a mutual friend's 15th birthday party. He tried to kiss her a lot and she thought he was rather bold. He told her he would marry her someday. After high school, Mom went to Modesto Junior College, wanting to pursue her love of art. At the beginning of her second year of junior college, Dad was home on leave from the Navy and asked her to marry him. She said, "Yes, yes, yes. What took you so long?" They married July 2nd, 1950 at her parents' home in 108-degree weather. They had their honeymoon in San Diego. Since Dad was stationed in Seattle, Washington, she moved there, then down to San Diego to live while Dad left for Korea. Mom lived in a hotel room at the Lanier Hotel. Although this was a very different living arrangement than she was used to, she greatly enjoyed her time. When Dad left the Navy, they moved back to Modesto and Mom went to work for J.C. Penney's. During this time, Mom's dad passed away, Paula was born, and her mother, Grandma McKee, lived with them. Then I was born and Dad was transferred to Cupertino, California in 1959. Mom didn't go back to work because she felt her most important job was her family. She volunteered at our grade school's library because she loved children, and probably to keep her eye on me because I was a little bit of a problem child. She was able to display her art that she made for the children and interact with the teachers. Our house was where all our friends came to play. We often had a full backyard with Mom keeping control with her teacher's whistle. We moved to Sonoma in 1968. Again, our home was the gathering place for all our friends. She was their second mom. I had friends who would come to see her to help sort out their problems. As we got older and boys entered our lives, they were always welcome at our house. Mom was always involved in making homemade pizza at midnight, burping contests, which she judged, and nighttime Jeep rides. She broke her ankle playing hide and seek with crazy high schoolers. She always loved young people and disliked being away from me and Paula. I remember one time Mom and Dad left for a weekend in Tahoe and came back the same night to take us back with them. She loved going for car rides and we often took them on the weekends to the coast. We all moved to Sacramento in 1974. I was a senior in high school and Paula in college, but she was always there for us, always waiting up for us to make sure we were okay and home safely. Mom and Dad moved to Thousand Oaks in 1978. Even though I no longer lived at home, this devastated me. Even though we often disagreed, I felt like I was losing my best friend. In the years that followed, Paul and I would marry and have our children. Most of my vacations I spent with Mom in Thousand Oaks because Thousand Oaks became a second home to me. When Paula's and my children were old enough, Mom wanted a week alone with each one of them through the year so she could get to know her 5 grandchildren individually. They were able to experience adventures with their grandparents that they will remember for their entire life. Mom took up painting again in her later years and made amazing pieces that we will always be able to cherish. Mom was fierce and loving, strong and supportive. She never gave up when her family and values were involved. I will always be proud of her for who she was, as she was so proud that we are her family. If anyone would like to share their memories, please come and do so.
Hello, my name is Evan, son of Paula, and here to share my memories. So, speaking just from my heart, because these are meaningful to me, so it wasn't something I felt like I needed to necessarily write down. But as a young kid, speaking upon those weeks that we used to go visit Grandma and Grandpa down in Los Angeles, exactly kind of what they had mentioned about the house being clean all the time, how they always would play games with me. It didn't matter what time of the day, if I wanted to go on a hike. It was mutual. Grandma, Grandpa, both of them. And just seeing the love that they had for one another and their family and everything was contagious. It definitely was something I felt was passed along to myself and my family. Grandma was always very good about playing games, even though she typically wasn't the one that would win in the games. She was more than willing to play. She always put up a good fight, but that was one thing for sure that always stuck with me. Getting to go down to Disneyland yearly, I felt was really a privilege growing up. Even though I was a handful. I would disappear out of the stroller at times when they would take me places. When we would go grocery shopping, things would end up in the cart mysteriously, just adding in there that they weren't expecting. All those type of things. I was also quite the handful, but it never stopped them from wanting to spend time with me, show love to me. And I just feel grateful for those opportunities in life that I got to grow up knowing my grandparents, and not everybody gets that opportunity. So again, those were the things that distinctively stuck in my mind, and I'll always love you.
Hello everybody, my name is Ryan. I'm Evan's brother. I'm also Paula's son, and Jeanne is my grandma. I kind of want to talk about how grandma made me into the person that I am now. I think I have kind of a reputation in the family for being like a bookish kind of person who likes to write, those kind of things. And the person who encouraged me to do that so much was my grandma. So she was, as my mom mentioned, she was a bookish person herself. She was very artistic, she was very crafty. She enjoyed writing poetry. I remember one day her bringing out a poem that my mom had written back in, I think you were 16, and reading it out loud to me at the kitchen table because she was just so proud of what her daughter had done. And that was how she felt about everybody in the family. She was always so proud of any kind of achievement that people would make. And so I remember going, I think it was probably around high school, I went down with my parents, and I brought a poem with me that I had written. I was in a creative writing class at the time. And so I brought a poem with me, and I let her read it, and it was completely quiet. There was silence the entire time. I didn't really know what the reaction was going to be. And I glanced over at her, and she was crying. And I don't want to brag and say that my poem was so good that I was making her weep. It was less about that and more just, I asked her about it, and she said it was good, but she said so much of the tears was just pride and like happiness at seeing this get passed down through the family generations. And she talked about how her father used to write plays and perform, and was so artistic, and her brother as well, and she as well, and her daughters as well. And she just felt a lot of pride in seeing that passed down. And when I left, she gave me a bunch of books. She gave me a book of her family poems, her favorite poems, including the one that Mom read, Invictus, which she talked about all the time. She said that that was the poem that she would always go back to anytime that she was feeling depressed or sad or not feeling strong. She would go back to that poem and she would read it, and it would give her the strength to be able to carry on. So I'm really glad that Mom read that poem today. I think that it perfectly encapsulates what Grandma is all about. And I think that especially here at this moment, and also just throughout life, whenever times are tough, whenever there's difficult times, that is a good poem to be able to go back to and be able to reflect on the spirit that Grandma represented throughout her life as well. I love you, Grandma. Thank you.
So in closing, we want to thank everyone for coming together today, and all our family and friends who will be able to view this service remotely. So please stay safe.